It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Lawrence head women's ice hockey coach, Coach Kevin Dessart. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Brandon. How about you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college women's ice hockey?
Um, yeah, I mean, I've been coaching for 20 plus years and coached all the way up with my kids through the 19U level. And then my daughter was recruited by CU Boulder. So she went there, and after her first year, the coach left, and she sent me a text or a call, or I forget what it was, um, urging me to apply for the job. And I was like, okay, um, this is different. This isn't, U19 hockey. This is college hockey. So, yeah. So, long story short, um, I did interview. She talked me into interviewing for it. I got it and realized that I loved coaching at this level. And yeah, so it's been, I spent 3 years there, and now going into my third year here at Lawrence.
What was that experience like for you as a player going to John's?
Um, it was great. It gave me the opportunity to continue playing hockey outside of after high school. We were not the best hockey team in the country, that's for sure, but we had a lot of fun. We worked hard. It was definitely an experience, all good. But it was, it was actually really good. It's unfortunate that I think it was 2 years after I graduated, they got rid of the team. But yeah, so it's kind of hard now. You go back and people are like, you played at St. John's. I didn't know they had a hockey team. No, they don't now, but they used to.
Coming out of college, what was it like getting into working in the sports industry and working as a PR for NHL teams?
Oh, that was great. I was fortunate that I had really good people advising me. Like when I was in college, you know, I didn't know what I wanted to do. My brother was a sports administration major, so I'm like, sure, that sounds great. I'll do that too because I love sports. And long story short, though, the dean of the department, Bernie Beglane, he guided me towards an internship with the New York Islanders. And like when I'm in college playing, I'm like, okay, I want to play pro hockey. That was my goal. Um, but that wasn't that other people had other plans for me. So it was he put me in touch with the Islanders, and it was great. I worked with my boss at the time was Greg Boris, who at the time was the youngest PR director in the NHL, and I spent the next little over a decade working in the NHL with three different teams. So it was a great experience.
Of course, what was that experience like going from being a PR for the Islanders to being an assistant general manager for the Panthers?
So that was great. So the way it worked, like my boss at the Islanders at the time when the Panthers started, Bill Torrey, who was the GM of the Islanders, became the president of the Panthers. He brought my boss down. My boss brought me down. I did PR for about 2 years with the Panthers, and then I had the opportunity to move over to the hockey operations side. So being a player and it wasn't the assistant GM, but assistant to the GM. So it was the third phase. Like Brian Murray was our general manager, Chuck Fletcher was our assistant GM, and then it was me. So it was a great experience. I mean, I wouldn't give that up for the world because it gave me the opportunity to work with some of the greatest minds, greatest coaches, greatest GMs in the game. So it was outstanding. It was everything you think it would be, but it was a lot of work. I won't lie. It was glamorous, but it was a lot of work.
How was that experience like going to the New Jersey Devils and becoming the director of PR?
So that was good because I was in hockey ops in Florida, and then the job opened for PR. And again, I was a little young and naive at that point. Didn't really know what I want. Didn't realize where I was with the Panthers, like what that position was. To me, it was just, well, it's my job. It's what I do. But so the PR director's job opened up, the director's job opened up in New Jersey. And I'm originally from New York, and my whole family was back there. So it gave me the opportunity to go back, work with the Devils, which was phenomenal. I mean, it was, I have the, like working for Lou Lamoriello was, I have the most respect for that man as a general manager and a person. You didn't, like, I was too young and naive to realize how much he actually cares about people. Like there's a lot of things you hear about Lou that, he's very set in his ways, which he is, but he's also one of the most caring and loyal people you'll ever meet. So that gave me the opportunity to go back, be closer to family, and also gave me the opportunity to win a Stanley Cup with the Devils in 2000. So it was kind of, the highest of highs in the NHL.
What was that experience like for you getting to experience that Stanley Cup win with the Devils?
Oh boy, feels like yesterday, but it was now it was almost 24 years ago. That was the best. I mean, as a hockey player, your goal is always to win the Stanley Cup. I couldn't do it as a player. So it was like, to me, it taught me, okay, find a way. At least I was working in the NHL. I was dealing, you were in and around the players day in and day out, players and coaches day in and day out. So it was phenomenal. And I remember, like I said, like it was yesterday. We're in Dallas, and I actually was in the locker room watching it on one of the TV monitors when Jason Arnott scored the overtime goal. And it was just, my boss was there. We were just like, we just did it. We just won the Stanley Cup. And it was just the party after that, the celebrations were just phenomenal.
Of course, for you, what was that transition like from working from the NHL to going into college hockey and going to Colorado?
Okay, so there was a little bit of, like, working with the Devils was, like I say, it was one of the highlights of my career. However, it was also what took me out of the NHL, because I had a young family at the time, working 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks. I never saw my wife and my kids. And it was one of those where it was just like, I need to make a change. So I made a change, and I took a job with the professional women's soccer team at the time, the New York Power. And we knew that was going to be temporary. I knew it was going to be, I just needed to change. But it ended up that it was great because it gave me the opportunity. My wife and I also knew, okay, we'd been on the East Coast. My wife was a military brat. She lived everywhere. It ended up, that wasn't where we wanted to raise our kids. So we literally picked up and moved. Like, she found a house in Colorado, and we moved and just went out there, and we created a life out in Colorado, which was outstanding.
What was that experience like becoming the Colorado's head women's ice hockey coach?
So that was great. That was, like I said, it was phenomenal, because again, getting to coach your kids at that level, or at least one of your children at that level. And Julie and I have kind of a unique relationship, a really good relationship. So it's one of those where, like, she calls me Kevin. It's not Kevin or Coach, especially when around teammates. But coaching CU was both a blessing and a curse, because it wasn't a full-time job, because it was ACHA hockey. So it was one of those where it was like, I made it a full-time, I treated it like a full-time job, but I also had to have my full-time job. So it was great though. I mean, we won back-to-back national championships, not national championships, conference championships. But we had COVID in the middle. So the first year we won our conference, COVID hit, we didn't get to go to nationals. And then the second year we won it, I got suspended for the first 2 games of nationals, and that's all we played.
Of course, what was that experience like going to back-to-back national champs?
It was great. It was like I say, it was because of COVID. Unfortunately, we didn't get the opportunity to play, and that was a team that we were ready to go. That was a team that we had the opportunity to do something special that year. And I really think all the girls, they were bought in, they were ready to go. I had a number that came back that year specifically to make it to nationals, because the previous season when I wasn't coaching, they lost in double overtime. But it was great. So the second year, that was a team that wasn't as talented as the first one, but they battled. They never gave up. So it was one of those where I know in our conference tournament, we lost our first game to Utah, but then came back and won our next two. And I think the final game we played ASU, and I think the score was 1-0. And it was just a tight game. It could have gone either way. And it was one of those where it's like that was kind of almost more rewarding than the first one, because that wasn't a team that we really expected to win our conference. We knew we had the opportunity, but to win the conference and have a national championship berth was incredible.
As a coach and father, what was that experience like getting to coach your daughter and now getting to coach alongside your daughter?
It's great. And like, I've had people come up to me. Like, I had one game this year, one of the officials came up to me after he heard the announcement of our names. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Is that your daughter?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "How awesome is that?" I said, "You have no idea." It's better than, as a parent, to be able to do this and have the relationship with her that we do, and the working relationship. It's great. It's one of those where I wouldn't give it up. There are so many people that I think would love to continue to coach and work with their kids. Some wouldn't, I guess, but at the same point, it's one of those where it's awesome.
What was that feeling like coming to Lawrence and becoming the head coach?
Nerve-wracking, because I went from a team that, again, back-to-back national championship appearances, to a team that hadn't won a game in its first two seasons. So it was nerve-wracking, and it was also, I had lived in Colorado for 21 years. I had never been to Wisconsin before. I never lived in the Midwest before. So it was one of those where I was like, all right, well, I want to do this full time. Here's a really good opportunity. Let's go for it. So we did.
What was that feeling like for you stepping onto that ice for the first time in Lawrence?
It was awesome. I remember 5, maybe 10 minutes into practice, I looked at Julia. We're standing on the blue line doing a drill in the offensive zone. And I looked over to her and I said, how has this team not won a game in 2 years? They're too talented. They're too good, and it was just one of those where it was, okay, here we go. So it was really nice to get the team on the ice and get things started. That was a great experience.
As a head coach, how have you been able to rebuild the culture at Lawrence after obviously going, as you said, having two seasons?
So I did, both Julie and I, we did player interviews before the season started, before we actually got to Wisconsin. We did individual phone interviews with each player. And the common theme was the culture was not very good. There was a lot of bitching and complaining and cliques. And so we knew coming in right away, that was our first thing. We need to change the culture here. So we did a lot of things, and we still do a lot of things to build on that culture. Like, we try and instill a culture of trust and respect amongst the team. So it's one of those where we've done a number of activities, what I like to call organic team building, just to get the girls, teaching them how to communicate with each other and not yell and scream at each other. Like, our demeanor, mine is one that, I kind of treat this as in a business setting. Like, if you're in an office setting, is your boss going to yell and scream at you if you did something wrong? Or is your coworker going to yell and scream at you if you did something, made a mistake? No. And if they do, that's a really bad work environment. So why is that acceptable in athletics? Why is that okay to do that? So it's kind of one of those things where we really work hard on the culture of this program.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a coach versus for your players?
For me as a coach, if it's a home game, depending upon the class schedule, we'll either have a early morning pregame skate, like we get on at 7 for about a half hour, or if they don't have class, then we get on at like 10:30 for a half hour skate. And then sometimes there's a film session in between, but normally we've done film up already. But then it's just, for me, I'm either at the rink most of the day, or I come home. If it's an earlier skate, I'll come home and just do some other work and prepare for the game. And then we're back at the game at the rink probably 3 hours prior. I get there 2 to 3 hours prior, and then it's just getting ready. Like all the work has been done, so it's just like it's a lot of hurry up and wait for me before games, and then it's just let's get ready to play.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against each week?
Oh boy, well we've got a tough conference. Like Adrian is in our conference, St. Norbert's in our conference, Aurora's in our conference, Marion, Dubuque, Lake Forest, MSOE, and Concordia, Wisconsin. So it's a pretty stacked conference. Obviously, Adrian is one of the best teams in the country. They were ranked at the end of the season. They were the number 2 team in the country. So it's a tough conference.
What is that home atmosphere like when teams like Adrian comes to home versus going to Adrian?
Well, we haven't had Adrian at home yet. So yeah, I haven't experienced that. But going to Adrian, it's our longest trip, but it's good. Like I'll be frank that the first game we coached against Adrian 2 seasons ago, we should not have been on the same ice surface as that team. They knocked the snot out of us 14-0, and it was just like, wow, okay, here we go. That said, this season we played them first round of the playoffs. Finally scored our first. Like we'd never scored a goal against Adrian in 3 years. We scored our first goal against them in both games in the playoffs. Were 1-goal games going to the third period. So our team learned that we can compete. While Adrian may have controlled a lot of it, we were frustrating them. So our team learned we could compete with teams like that.
What is that home game atmosphere like at Lawrence?
It's pretty electric. We had this year, the school started the pep band again, so we get pretty good crowds for our games, which is nice. So like I think we were the highest total attendance of any team in our conference the last 2 seasons. We might have been number 2 this year. I'm not sure. But we started, the students started the pep band again, because we have a music conservatory. So we have a lot of great musicians. And for a school that is really putting a lot of focus on athletics, to not have a pep band. So we had the pep band there for the second half of the season. And it is just, it's awesome. I mean, they get the crowd going, get the music going. It gives it a real big time college hockey feel.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes? And as a head coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes?
Okay, so what does it look like? It's constant. I can tell you that. I'm always talking. Like I had an advisor talk to me one time and like, how's your roster? I said, my roster is always open. I said, if I have a player that is going to make us better, my roster is always open. But it's constant. Like this is a big time for recruiting. Like I just got back from a recruiting trip last week that was a couple weeks long. So like I say, it's constant. But what do I look for? The first and foremost, I look for somebody that has a high level of compete. I mean, I like my teams to battle. And that's one of the nicest compliments, even when the games are maybe not so close as you'd like them to be, when you have people say, boy, you guys you don't stop. You compete till the final buzzer, because that wasn't always the way with the program. So I look for players first and foremost that have a really high level of compete, because it's hard to teach compete. You either have that fire lit under you or you don't. And if you do, that's a great thing. If you don't, it's really hard to get it burning.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that uniform for the first time and your seniors putting them on for the last
time? Well, this was our first year that our seniors took their jerseys off for the final time, or wore them for the final time. So that was hard, because again, you build relationships with all of them. I mean, I've only spent 2 years with them, but they're like, for lack of a term, they're like my kids. I love them all, and I'm proud of them. They've been through a lot of it. Like the girls that were here for all 4 seasons have been through a lot of adversity. Building a program you think is, it's just going to be fun. I'm going to get to play hockey. It's hard, especially if you don't win. It's really hard. So it's rewarding to see them. There were some tears in the locker room. I'll admit I got a little choked up at the end there. But seeing the freshmen put their jerseys on, seeing the excitement of the freshmen putting that jersey on for the first time, that's cool because I don't really get to see them put them on because I'm not in the locker room. But when you show them their jerseys, you can see the look on their faces. Like, that's cool. That's my number. That's my name. And it's on a Viking sweater. So it's actually really, really cool experience.
What is it like getting to see them achieve those big milestones in their career, like the first hat tricks?
Oh, that's cool. Like, I'll be frank. When Dell scored the first hat trick this season, I didn't realize nobody ever scored one before until somebody told me. So it's always nice with a younger program when you're hitting milestones. So it's like first, like, okay, we were there, we saw the first. That's not no one can take that away. So it is actually a really nice feeling, and I'm happy for the players more so than anything, just that they've achieved those things because again, they've worked hard. Like, building a program, I'll reiterate it, is hard. So seeing them achieve those type of things is pretty rewarding.
What was that feeling like the first time you got the home victory?
Well, our first victory was at Northland. So that was a relief, being very frank, because again, there were so many close calls that first season I coached them. I think it was UW Superior we were playing, and we went to overtime. And the girls, like, they had never gone to overtime before. They'd never been in that situation. So it was kind of like, all right, wow, really? We've worked on overtime a little bit, but not enough. And unfortunately, we lost in overtime. But it was the first win at Northland it was a relief. I was just pumped for the girls. It was like they won the Stanley Cup. They finally got that monkey off their back. So it was really, I was just so happy for the team, for the players, just to kind of, get past that milestone, to know that they can win. Because a lot of that, when you don't win, you get that, well, we can't win in your head. So it was nice to see that they got it off their back.
So far as a head coach, what have been some of the things that you've been able to accomplish?
Probably some of the things we've accomplished is in turning the program around. Like, it was not great when I got here. I won't lie. It was in a bad spot. So just knowing that getting them from where they were to where they are now, that is huge. Like, from the comments I hear, and again, I didn't see the team play prior to my getting here, but like, just the compliments and comments you hear from family, from officials, like, they learned how to play the game. It was like before, when they weren't winning, the ice was just so lopsided, I guess, that it wasn't like they were playing hockey. So I guess just getting them to play the game and understand that, okay, this is how you play, which they all are capable of. So I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of, is just kind of being able to get them to be competitive and play hockey.
What are some of your future plans for the Lawrence women's ice hockey program moving forward?
I want to win a conference championship. That's why I'm recruiting my butt off to bring in players that will help us get there. Like, this is not, we can win, and we learned that last year. We just need to be more consistent. So yeah, winning a conference championship. I want to at least compete for a conference championship. Let's put it that way.
What advice would you have those incoming freshmen entering their first year of women's college ice hockey?
Be ready for an adjustment. Most of them have never played on a team before that has more players than they can dress. So there is that, you may not dress. You may be a healthy scratch. That said, even if you're a freshman, I don't care what year you're in. If you're going to make our team better, you're going to play. But I would tell them, be ready. Come to Lawrence in the best shape of your life. and we'll prepare you. We'll get you the off-ice workouts and the summer programs. But come be ready to go, be ready to compete, and be ready to battle.
What advice would you give those college women ice hockey players looking to play professional ice hockey after their playing career?
Work hard. Don't get complacent. And talk. Let your coaches know so that we can help you with that, because that's one of the biggest things. Like some of the players, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to do that. So if they want to play pro hockey, you've got to work. You've got to have that drive. And, it's one of those things where it's the little things. Like we have a little something I share with the players all the time comes from Kobe Bryant, where, so what's your 4 a.m.? What are you willing to do that other players aren't willing to do to get you there?
What advice would you give those players looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
Be a sponge. Never stop learning. Be open. Like, I learned something a long time ago. Like, coaches think they always need to have control. And that I learned that in order to gain control or have control, sometimes you have to let go of control and put it on the players. Let them like police themselves a little bit, and hold each other accountable. So it's one of those things where it's okay to let go. It's okay to not know everything. Just keep learning.
What advice would you give those head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Looking to build their own program, like start a program. Be ready. You will get a lot of players that reach out to you because they think they can play there. Are those the players you really want, though? Because a lot of players that I hear from, they think they can play there because we're not a very good program right now. It's like, oh, I could play for Lawrence. Well, that's not going to help me win a conference championship. So it's one of those where you've got to get the right players in. It does take time. Patience is you have to be a patient person. So, but you can build it faster. It's like, get players in. If they're not the right players, then you might have to have some tough conversations.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the Lawrence Women's Ice Hockey Program?
On social media, we have Instagram, LU Women's Hockey on Instagram. We have Facebook page as well. I don't know if we have a TikTok or not. I don't think we might. I don't know if we do. But Instagram is probably the best way to find LU Women's Hockey.
Thank you again, Coach Kevin Dessart, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Lawrence as the head women's ice hockey coach.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thanks.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.